Hello, I'm Austin Wilson, Chief Investment Officer at Hixon Zuercher Capital Management.
I'm Josh Robb, Director of Wealth Management at Hixon Zuercher Capital Management, and we're here to give you the monthly economic update. And we're talking about April as we head into May.
So the markets.
Yes.
Start with the markets. The month of April.
Yes.
Was not bad.
No?
The month of April is not bad. The S&P 500 was up 9.7%. The Dow was up 6.7%. The NASDAQ up 13.99%. Mid-caps were up 6.94, small caps 11.57, developed international stocks were up 4.14, emerging market stocks up 9.98, even bonds eked out a small gain of 0.1%, and you might say why?
Yes, that's a good question.
Well, if we look at what happened last month, maybe last month's video would have said very bad numbers.
Yes. End of March.
End of March.
Looking in March for April. Yes.
In fact, on March 30th, the day before the end of the quarter, the president came out and had a True Social post about how there was good negotiations going on with Iran. That turned the market on a dime. So March 30th was the bottom. There was one really good day of rally there, but then the whole month of April was pretty much a rally coming out of the sell-off that was March due to the uncertainty around Iran.
Yes.
So, continued good performance there through the month of April.
Yes. So, as we talk about, that's the market returns.
Yes.
And then the first thing we're going to be really highlighting is inflation. So, as we looked at April, April's reading came out, and April was the first month where you saw data that had an impact from the Iran conflict.
Yes.
And so, the inflation was 3.3% annually. Then that was the March number, came out in April. And that marked the highest level in 2 years of inflation, because inflation had been coming down off of 2022.
It was in the low twos.
Yes.
2-3-ish kind of was where it had been for a few months.
So we were in 9% in 2022, and it was just a downward movement, relief from inflation.
Yep.
We got all the way down into the twos.
Yeah.
And then now we're back up to 3.3. And
so,
why was that?
Yeah,
why
really, there was one component of that release that stuck out. All the other components, relatively flat month over month, but the one component was energy.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about that next, actually. But energy is obviously something that is a huge contributor to costs around the world, costs for consumers. And if you looked at what happened in this inflation reading, about 0.8% of that 3.2 or 3.3% was due to energy costs.
Yes, which is about what it moved.
Yeah, so that is pretty much all of it. So the question is, what happened energy-wise?
Yes.
And that really goes back to Iran, right?
Yes.
So Iran, there's a Strait of Hormuz is what it's called. The Strait of Hormuz is a key, it's a choke point in global oil trade, right? Tankers flow through this, about 90-some tankers per day on average flow through this strait. Down really to get out to Asia is where a lot of the oil goes out there, but it's a global oil market.
Yes.
And what has happened as we've been in a conflict with Iran for now a couple months is there is no traffic going through that.
Right.
So if about a quarter of the world's oil traffic is stopped, oil's harder to get.
Yes.
And when oil's harder to get, oil prices go up through the roof.
It's supply and demand.
Supply and demand, of course.
Changed, so the price moves.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. The actual supply hasn't changed, but the ability to get it has definitely changed.
It's all in one spot.
So oil is a global market, and therefore oil is up 50, 60, 70% or more, depending on what you're looking at. And in fact, this has obviously flowed through now to consumers. Here in Findlay, Ohio, gas is $4.99 a gallon. Around the rest of the country, it's very similar.
Yes.
The national average is well over $4 a gallon for the first time in quite some time. And that is something that consumers are starting to feel.
Yes. Yeah, because again, coming out of 2022, when we saw inflation lowering, one of those key pieces of inflation was energy, which was coming down. Gas was getting cheap. In fact, the gas prices were lower, and that was actually helping the inflation number.
Correct.
Now it's hurting the inflation number.
Ironically, the last major global geopolitical conflict was what caused some of that, because that was Russia's invasion of Ukraine at the beginning of that.
Yep.
So as we can see, geopolitics, huge impacts on oil markets.
Yes, for sure. All right. We'll take a stop and we'll do the Florida news story, which
Big
is
news.
Always exciting to hear. So this involves fast food.
Okay.
All right. And the concept of free water cups.
You can just ask for them.
So if you go up and say, hey, can I have a cup for water? Most places will give you a cup for water. Some people take that cup and then fill it up with non-water products.
It's not honest.
Pop or
We would say
tea
not
or
integrity.
whatever. And so here, this is in Florida. A 20-year-old was arrested and faces 3 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm. And it was a Taco Bell shooting incident. But it may not be how you think it plays out. So
no idea.
Interaction turned kind of intense when an employee noticed customers filling their water cups with soda instead of the free water. She started yelling at them and then pulled out a firearm, allegedly, and began shooting towards customers. So it wasn't a customer towards the employee, which normally those are the incident. Yeah. It was the employee who apparently takes her job very seriously and allegedly started attacking towards the customers who were filling up, soda.
I would say allegedly this person probably is unemployed.
That's probably a good assumption.
That's Florida.
Yes.
Always something crazy in Florida. So we just talked about inflation, right?
Yes.
Inflation, oil, lots going on there. What did that leave the Federal Reserve to do is the question. So the Federal Reserve met.
Because that's one of their things they have to keep an eye on.
Price stability is the way that they like to talk about it. Price stability is one of their mandates. The other is full employment, essentially. The employment side of the situation, we're going to see a new report very, very soon, but very stable.
Yep.
Kind of low 4s unemployment. We're still net adding jobs per month, which keeps the unemployment pretty stable. It's kind of a low hire, low fire environment, but pretty stable, right? So that the Fed can say, okay, we're doing okay.
Yeah, doing all right.
Inflation, something they also look at. It's up. We just talked about inflation being up. The question is, what can the Fed do about inflation being up? Well, they could increase interest rates.
They could.
That would certainly squash growth, the economy, all kinds of things like that, make it harder to borrow, money flows a little less freely. But does that fix the situation in Iran?
No.
That does not fix
doesn't control oil supply.
Yeah. Well, the oil supply is not fixed with the interest rate hike. So what did the Fed do? They did nothing.
Right.
They did not hike rates, certainly. They did not lower rates because lowering rates would juice inflation even further. So what they did and what they're likely to do for the foreseeable future is probably take a wait-and-see approach. We went into this year thinking, hey, we might have a couple rate cuts, and that would be great. And now it's looking like maybe we'll just kind of leave rates kind of where they are right now.
Correct.
This was also the last meeting and decision with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell making his press release and all that. He's done a pretty decent job communicating to the markets over the last handful of years since he's been the Fed chair. This was his last one. His term ends, and it seems very, very likely that Kevin Warsh will, and that's not Warsh as in like it's spelled incorrectly.
Some areas pronounce it
Some
that way,
areas say Wash as Warsh. This is Warsh as in his name is Warsh.
His name Warsh.
But he is likely to be confirmed by the Senate and be the next Fed chair for the next meeting. But that's where the Fed is.
All right. And then final news story is April is tax season. So as we do a look back, last year we had the One Big Beautiful Bill Act pass, and there were a lot of tax changes that were within that bill. It was mainly a tax law adjustment, and so you had new things like no tips on certain wages that were overtime or tips.
Yes.
And so non-tax on tips up to a certain amount and overtime wages up to a certain, there's always caveats there. And then there were some adjustments to standard deductions.
Child tax credit.
New child tax credits. So overall, we saw about an 11% increase in refunds.
Yeah.
So when you break that down, it's about a $350 per person increase in refunds. Now, when the bill came out, they were projecting about $1,000 per person, so a little less than projections, but it still is better. The other thing there was when you look at why over withholding is still a thing, and that's always been a case when it looks at refunds. Is in a sense a refund is just I paid too much tax to the government, and then they gave it back. So that's somewhere around $3,500 per person is the average refund. So, with that money, what do people do? Some see that as a windfall. They use it to spend. Others say, hey, that's forced savings. Now I'm going to, put that away or do something. Right. So overall, it was a higher refund than it was the prior year.
I wonder if that difference could be partly due to the fact that those expectations of it being so much higher pretty much anticipated no one was going to be doing much changing on withholding.
Right.
And maybe people change their withholding more than they thought because it's all over the news, right? We're getting tax changes, tax bill changes. So maybe that's the difference there. Came in a little bit and people actually
ended up adjust appropriately.
Adjusting.
I hope so because, a tax refund is just a non-interest
bearing a loan to the government.
I didn't get anything for giving you money extra. So, yes. Hopefully they do it.
A very large tax refund actually means you should probably look at your withholding for the next
Correct.
year.
Yes.
So that is the month of April.
Yes.
We're sitting here in the month of May. It's still choppy out there, but we want you guys to know that as these geopolitical situations play out, and they play out a lot, by the way, this happens, it seems like every year or two, the markets tend to recover and do well over time. And right now we're near all-time highs. So that's pretty good. We weren't a month ago.
Right.
And these things do change, but over the long term, markets heal, companies generate profits, and your financial plan should remain intact from that. But this has been Austin and Josh with Hixon Zuercher. If you have any questions about your financial plan, please feel free to give us a call at 419-425-2400 or email us at hello@hzcapital.com. And until next month, have a good one.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.